Okay, here we go. Power quadratics review. Basically, the final is coming, and the quadratics part is, there's a lot of questions on there about quadratics. And so I'm just going to go over a few things. We'll start off easy. I'm going to do the one that's red here, just show you how I could show my work on this. If you show your work, you really are more likely to do better on the final. So you don't have to because it's multiple choice. But honestly, they say that's one of the biggest disadvantages for kids on a multiple choice final is that then they tend to not do it by hand and try to just do it all in their head, and they get more mistakes. Okay, so here I'd have 5 and root 3 and I, and that's not the right order to write it in. 5i root 3. You recognize those? You remember those? Okay, try that one with the square root of negative 72. There's two ways you could do it, but I'll pause while you try to answer that one. Okay, let's say that I didn't notice that 36 goes into 72. And instead I just went, oh, square root of 9, square root of 8, and square root of negative 1. That would have been a great start. 3 for this, square root of 8, and an I. So 3i square root of 8. What's wrong with that? Not all the way reduced or simplified. So I got to go square root of 8 breaks into square root of 4 and the square root of 2, and then 3 times I times 2 times the square root of 2 makes 6i root 2. Now if you noticed right off the bat that this was square root of 36 and square root of 2, then that makes the whole thing a lot easier, because then it's just 6i root 2 right away. So which would you rather do? You like this one better? Of course, just shorter. Everybody likes to do less work. Okay. Another thing you have to know, this is kind of a repeat of a slide that I used right at the end when we reviewed quadratics for the test. It covers most of the things you have to know about quadratics. And it's really kind of cool that I can just show you that picture and you can answer all of those questions about that picture. Okay, just try it without me. And then if you get stuck, I'm going to just remind you of one thing. The factored form, if you can't do that, you won't be able to do anything. The factored form of these three, that's the first one you get. You got to know that factored form would not be x minus 8 and x minus 4. What would it be? X plus the 8 and x plus the 4, because the roots are negative 8 and negative 4. So the negative 8 is supposed to solve this thing, so they need to be opposites of each other. Okay, so I will help you with that part. Now you can certainly do all the rest of it. Okay, negative 8 and negative 4 are the roots, or the zeros. If you wrote them this way, you'd be in the best shape. Negative 8, comma 0. Why? Because it's a point. It's not just negative 8. It's not just a number. And then negative 4, comma 0. The x-intercepts are where y equals 0. So I just have to slap in a 0 here and here. All right, the y-intercept. Well, I can't see it. I know it's going to be up there somewhere. And yeah, I could probably count it over to figure it out. But I'm going to wait till later to do my y-intercept once I've found my general form, because it's really easy to see there. Okay, axis of symmetry. It's that line that runs right here. And so it's x equals, oopsie, x equals negative 6. Next up, vertex. Vertex is that spot, so it's at negative 6, negative 4. Next up, is it a max or a min? Well, it's at the bottom, and that just, it's sort of intuitive for me anyway. That just looks like a minimum, the lowest that it could go. It's the minimum. Next up, I gave you this factored form. How do you get general form? Just multiply it out. So you get x squared plus 12x plus 32. I need a y equals, and I need to check and see, is the thing right side up? Yeah, it is. So therefore, this should be positive in front. If this was ending, like going down on the right, we'd remember that that means there's a negative in front, right? Okay. And then vertex form. I know the vertex. So as long as I know that vertex form always looks kind of like this, y equals something squared and then a number at the end, I just plug my vertex in. My vertex was negative 6, so I put positive 6 because it's counterintuitive in there, minus 4. Raise your hand if you had all those right. Good. What's the one we didn't do yet? And where is the y-intercept? It's at the end of general form. It's right there, so 32. And again, just like the other one, I'd really rather not have you just say 32. The y-intercept is, it's a point. And the y-intercept is where what is 0? X is 0 at the y-intercept. And so I can put 0, comma, and then 32. All right? Okay, that's a lot about quadratics right there. But what if the problem just said, I want the roots? A lot of kids freeze up and go, well, what am I supposed to do? There is a thing you can do that always works. What is our most dependable way of solving problems that are quadratics? Yes? Quadratic formula, that is correct. I would like you to write quadratic formula across your scratch paper. And then I'd like you to write out the quadratic formula for yourself. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A lot of times we hear kids singing during the final. That's okay. All right. So if I ask you for the roots, you immediately should think quadratic formula. If I ask you for general form, you should immediately think what? How do you get general form again? Generally, you just multiply it out. Yes. Because you can't get this from the graph. You can't just look at the graph and say, ooh, I know that parabola is blah, 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 blah. You can't do that. But if I write the parabola with like factored form, which is easy to do, or with vertex form, which is easy to do, then I can just multiply it out and I get general form. All right. Next up, what if I need vertex form? Well, I can just look at the vertex. It's easy. But what if you don't have a graph? How do you get vertex form? Complete the square. That is correct. All right. And let's talk about complete the square. I'm going to do this black one here, and then I'm going to have you try the blue one. By the end, we'll be black and blue. Okay. Y equals x squared plus 4x plus a box minus a box plus 3. Then I go x squared plus 4x, and then this is the part where I need to find the halfen square. And he goes in there, 4 and 4. And then I go 4x, I've been doing this too long. Let's see, and then I go like this, and I say x, and sure, that's 2 and 2, and plus, and then minus 1. And then I have y equals x plus 2 squared minus 1. All right, now you try the blue one. Oh, wait, why did I do that? Because I wanted to know the vertex, which is -2, -1. All right, now try that on the blue one. I'll pause while you do. Okay, so first of all, you need to put your plus box and minus box in there. Then you need to do your halfen square. Half of 5 is 5 over 2, you could think of it as. And 5 over 2 squared is 25 over 4. Now, you might have wimped out and used your calculator to get a decimal for this. For that, I would not blame you. But on the test, you are required to know how to do this without a calculator. So, all right, you can, maybe there'll be some on the calculator part and some on the non-calculator part. All right, then I go x plus, and then I take the square root of this number. Square root of 25 over 4 is 5 over 2. And then I have to put this all together. That's really -6 and 1/4 plus 3, which makes -3 and 1/4. So I did mine with fractions. You might have did yours with decimals. But either way, that's the answer. So, any other questions on the green one there? Raise your hand if you got it right. All right, good. Now, the red one, tougher, complete the square. These are the kind where you have to be able to factor something out. So my first thought is, if I can get the plus box, minus box in there, I'll be starting complete the square. Then I got to factor something out of this. Remember, the 1 gets left out. All I need to do is factor something out of the 5 and the 20. So I'm going to go y equals 5, x squared plus 4x plus box minus box plus 1. I'm going to pause so that I can finish this before the end. So, because I took a 5 out, I have to also multiply this by 5. And then And then I have negative 20 plus 1, which would be negative 19. And there's my answer. And the vertex would be negative 2 comma negative 19.